everybody.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Turtles in a Half Shell.
Heroes in a Half Shell.
Heroes in a Half Shell, Turtle Power.
All right, today we're taking a look at Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Shadows of the Past, which actually is not based on the cartoon, which Jason just sang, or based on the movies. It's actually based on the comic books, which I have not read, although if you want to read one, they give you an issue in the box to go and read. Hooray! The turtles in the comics are a little darker, a little bit more gritty than the cartoons in the movies were just absolute silly.
Yeah.
Which is fine. And so in this game, 1 to 4 players will play the 4 different turtles: Donatello, Raphael, Michelangelo, and Leonardo. And another player will play the bad guys, whether they're foot ninjas, whether they're Shredder, whether they're just some thugs in the city. And so you have to have at least 2 people to play the game. 1 person can control the turtles, or you can go all the way up to 5. All right, so this is kind of like a dungeon crawl type thing. Let me show you. So the game comes with a comic book, so if you want to learn about some of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and what they have to do in comics. And then it comes with a couple of scenario books. There are 2 adventure comic books. There's also a rule book. But each of these is going to show you how to set up a scenario. There's 4 books, and each book is made up of several scenarios. So you'll see book 1 has 4 battles, and there's some background, and it tells you some of the, the win conditions and what happens if someone wins. And then it shows you how to set up that particular scenario. And each one is going to have something similar to that, with some comic pages in between to show you what's going on in the storyline at that point in time. So you're going to have this scenario, and it's going to be set up, and there's going to be different, sometimes different things that happen on, like for example, this car here is kind of rough terrain. The borders of each of these show how that type of terrain is treated. And the game comes with different cards, and it will tell you what cards, and not only will those cards tell you what kind of terrain it is, but it will also tell you something that you might be able to do with that terrain. So like covered terrain here gives you plus 1 defend, because there's some covered terrain on the board even. And then it tells you that there's a special action you can take there to take cover. Now, of course, the way that it's going to be set up is players will be placing miniatures on the board. The game comes with a whole pile of miniatures. For many, there's not a whole lot of different types of ninjas. We got your foot ninjas, your ninja elites, and your bruisers. You also have some punks here, and some gunner thugs. And then, of course, you have the big bad guys, including Mr. Shredder himself. What a very nice gentleman he is. The turtles, there's going to be all 4 of them, and they're in different poses. I'm not going to probably paint these guys, but I'm tempted to paint their headbands just so I can tell the difference between them. I know, in the original Turner comics, they all have the same color headband. But whatever. So each player is going to set up the way it's supposed to be. Each player who's playing a turtle is going to get their card. This gives your stats, how far you can move, how many dice you roll on attack, your defensive skills, we'll talk about that a little bit later, and focus, and then life. And you'll notice in this game, life is pizza, which can also be, so this here would be 5 life, and then you can have smaller slices to keep track of however much life. So for example, Leonardo starts here with 12 dice. Each turtle also is going to come with 3 action dice, with the exception of Mr. Raphael here, who comes with 6 of them. Gameplay is going to go back and forth between the turtles and then the bad guys. So 1 turtle will take their turn, then the bad guy will take his turn, and then another turtle, then the bad guy, and we'll go back and forth, and then you reset to the next round and go until someone has reached their goals. Goals are going to be to maybe defeat a certain number of bad guys, stop the bad guys from going somewhere else. The bad guys trying to knock out the turtles a certain number of time and get KO tokens to show that he's done that, or he might have some other goal in mind for each of the scenarios. Now I wanted to put the turtles like this because this is an important part of the game. Each round of the game, turtles are going to roll their dice. The different dice have different symbols on them, and in fact, each turtle is slightly different than the rest. So here's Donatello and Leonardo, and you can see how they have a lot of the same symbols, but they also have slight differences between them on their dice. You're going to roll your dice, and you can pay one of these tokens to re-roll the dice once on your turn. And once players are done with dice, they're going to be kind of putting them in front of them, and players are kind of sitting. You don't have to sit necessarily in a circle, but you want to know where your dice are in relation to the other turtles. Because on your turn, you're not only going to have the actions that are showing on your 3 dice, but you'll also have the actions on the dice of the turtles next to you. So Leonardo, he knows this die is going to go to Donatello, and this die is going to go to Michelangelo. The exception to that rule is Raphael. Raphael does not share dice. He does not use these dice, but he has 6 of his own, so who's going to complain about that, really? Donatello and Michelangelo are still going to use Raphael's dice. So Donatello will have 5 actions on his turn, so he just puts these tokens on top of them to show that he is using these actions, and when he's done, they come off, and then another turtle can go, so then Leonardo could use his 5 actions, which are like this. So the different actions are pretty simple. The yin-yang sign essentially gives you more of your focus tokens that you're able to use to re-roll dice and heals you. This will add to your defense. This will let you move your movement amount. This will let you attack somebody. This is a double attack in a sense, and this is a ranged attack. When someone attacks somebody else in this game, they're going to be using battle dice. These dice here have defense on 2 sides of them. They have hits on 3 sides and a double hit on the 4th. So when you're attacking someone, you're just going to roll the number of dice that you have for attacking. And since turtles might have multiple attacks, if I roll 2 of these, I can do 2 separate attacks. And this is Raphael, so his attack is 2, for example. Plus 1 sword, this would be an attack of 3. He gets to roll 3 dice. However, he can add another sword for an attack of 4 dice, or he can do 2 different attacks of 3 dice each. So it's up to you to determine how you're going to do that. So then you see how many hits, and then the opponent's going to look at their defense, and that's how many dice they're going to roll in the defense, plus any shells that they might have, and then they'll roll those dice, and they're trying to block the hits. And then you'll take damage back and forth. Many of the bad guys are only 1 hit, but there's many bad guys who are more than 1 hit. Speaking of bad guys, I guess I should show them to you. So we have Street Thug Brawlers, Old Hob, Street Thug Gunner, Foot Clan Ninja, Foot Clan Elite, Foot Clan Bruiser, Alopex, I don't know if I'm pronouncing these right, and finally Master Shredder. So the different ones of these are going to be showing up, and they have different life on these that you'll keep track of. They're going to attack a little bit differently. They're not using dice. There's a deck of cards that's going to be built by the bad guy. The scenario will tell you what decks to use. They might say, stick the red Thug Brawler cards in, or the blue Thug Brawlers, or the green, or maybe all of them. And you're going to mix these together, and every time the bad guy goes, he's going to have a hand of cards, and he's going to play cards. So this here lets me move 1 Thug Brawler, and he can move and attack with 2 swords. This one here lets me move him twice and attack with 1, but I can do that with 2 different Thug Brawlers. And so the player who's playing the bad guys is going to pick which of these cards to play. Those cards stay played in front of him. There's going to be 4 cards in front of him at any time, and they will add to the defense of the people the cards that are played. And so you might have a whole bunch of cards for them, and then some of the cards for the leaders, and sometimes the cards have different actions that will happen when they're played. So the deck for the bad guy is made up of these cards, and then there's 1 card in the deck that when you find it, you reshuffle everything and continue on. So players are going to be going back and forth. They're going to be attacking each other. There's also ranged attacks, which are similar to regular attacks, but they simply, someone has to be 2 away, and for every extra space after 2 that they're away, 1 of your hits is canceled, so you're going to need to do more hits against people who are farther. Each of the turtles also has some special abilities. This has to do with their skills. Sometimes a scenario will say skill -2, so Leonardo would only get 2 special abilities in that scenario. But he has a whole pile to pick between. So Leonardo might pick Slice and Dice, or Clash, or Leaping Strike, or Double Slash, or Leonardo Leads, or Probing Attack, or I'll Hold him off. And each turtle has very different attacks. Sometimes these are special abilities that they have. Sometimes they need certain dice to pull that off. So Donatello, for a pull kick, will need 1 movement and 1 attack. But that lets him then leap 3 spaces in a straight line and do an attack that's +3. So that's a pretty neat idea, and he doesn't have to break away. When you break away, you pay extra movement to move away from other creatures. Every scenario is going to be very small. Each of these boards, you're only ever going to be using 2 of them, and so players are going to be going back and forth, taking turns until someone wins. You may be wondering where the other characters are. The good guy characters like April O'Neil, Woody Durkins, Angel Bridge, Master Splinter, Casey Jones, these are allies. Some scenarios will give them to you, and essentially they're a special ability that you have for that battle. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. There's a little bit more to it than that, but that's how you play Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Okay, so Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shadows of the Past is kind of like a dungeon crawl in some sense. Like think Doom or Descent or games like that. And it's, so one person or several people are controlling the turtles and they're working together to accomplish missions. The biggest difference here is it's not like a long series of quests. It's like short, like 4 or 5 missions. And each mission is on a pretty small board, and it's essentially not so much as a mission as it is just a fight. Like, if you like to kick the door down and fight, that's how this game works.
Yes. As the turtles, you just want to knock everyone out, knock those gangs out, knock the clans out, and you just want to wreak havoc.
Do you feel like it's a turtle game? Do you feel the theme is strong?
Yes and no. I mean, it could have been, obviously, you could have put any skin on this game, but the turtles fit in, the fact that you're jumping across the buildings, there's garbage cans, you're sliding along railings. There was little thematic elements that did make you feel like you were in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, in the comics, in the movies.
I'm going to disagree with Jason here because I think the game is extremely thematic. I feel like a lot of the special moves they have, from the pizza, to using as hit points, to the different characters, to the miniatures, to the fact that they are using teamwork to work together. I really felt like we were playing a Teenage Mutant Ninja game. It didn't feel like this was a fantasy warfare dungeon game that had been transformed into Turtles. It felt different and refreshing, and I think part of that was the theme. The other part of that, though, was the mechanisms. Now, we've seen games before where you roll dice and use those dice for actions, from very complex games like War of the Ring to simple games. And this game is like that, and I was like, oh, cool, I really like that mechanism. But that shared die thing is really neat. The way that makes the people playing the turtles talk together, which is why I think this game shines better with more players, because it forces you to talk. If you're one person, you can mix everything together.
Yeah.
But that teamwork aspect is, I think, the coolest part of this game.
I do too. Now, let me go back to the theme for a second, because when I said yes and no, it could have been another theme, but the turtle theme, like I was explaining, was incorporated very well. I mean, with the garbage cans, with taking the garbage cans, with the powers that each of the turtles have. Each turtle fits their turtles, so, one has the bow stick and they can spin it around and hit a bunch of people, and one is fast and jumping around, and one is strong, and it's just like the turtles. So yes, it is very well themed. I don't know if it came across the first time I said it, but it is very well themed. I agree with Tom. I wasn't in the not themed mode. And now let's go back to the mechanics, which I think are wonderful in this game. I love the shared die mechanic. I love the fact that you have to decide, which die goes on which side, which goes on the other, when you want to re-roll to try to get better stuff for your neighbors, which that mechanic alone is what makes this game a better level than most dungeon crawls. And I'm not, as everyone knows, I'm not a big dungeon crawl fan, but I think that the mechanics in this one take it a step above.
Yeah, but it's not just like I said, you're not like going through and searching for treasure. No, you're there. It's like the movie scene where the turtles show up and suddenly 15 ninjas walk in. And as you beat the ninjas, more and more ninjas keep coming in the room. But once you beat that bad guy, the big bad guy, they stop coming in. And I think that's kind of a cool, it comes across really well. And the dice rolling for hits and stuff, and the turtles are obviously way more powerful than the bad guys. Not maybe the big bad guys, but for most of the bad guys, but the bad guy, the card system for the bad guy also is a neat system.
Yes.
Where you can pick that and it can change their defense and stuff. I almost always played the bad guy, the dungeon master in these type of games. And so I'm always looking for one that allows me to do interesting things, and I'm not just framing, the game, that I have to decide what to do. And the way you play these cards gives that person as much choice as the turtles.
I agree, and the game almost feels like Gauntlet, the video game Gauntlet, like you're out there, you're fighting. And there's 2 other games that came out this year that do similar things, Mechs and Minions and Conan, but I feel that this one is superior to both of them.
Well, Mechs vs. Minions I wouldn't put in the same category for me because that's a co-op game, so that's a whole different thing. But this is actually, oddly enough, similar to Conan. Conan has miniatures, it has some heroes that are going through, it has very good systems of fighting. They're very different games, but they're in that same box. Now, Turtles has an edge up on Conan. First of all, Turtles is family friendly.
Yes.
Even though I said it's darker and grittier, the darkest and grittiest Turtles is like
Nothing.
eons better than the lightest and family friendliest of Conan.
Yes.
So the Turtles is, and I think Turtles is a more unique theme. Well, Conan's not a bad theme. Here's the deal. I really like both games. And when we played the game the first time, Jason said, oh, I think this is better than Conan. I think you said that.
Yes,
I was like,
I still feel that way.
But as time has gone by, I'm coming around to that viewpoint. I'm going to keep both for now in my collection. But Turtles has the edge for me because, one, I can play Turtles with anybody. And two, that sharing thing, working together. In Conan, you have Conan and his sidekicks. And it's fun to play the sidekicks. But it's the most fun to be Conan, probably.
Yes.
In the Turtles, they are all equal. Sure, Raphael is a beast, but he needs help sometimes.
Yes.
You know, and you know, and each of them has their own specific. They get cooler special abilities that Raphael does not have.
And there's a number 3 price point. Not just that the game is a better game, but the price point alone makes Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles the game that you'd want to get if you're looking for a co-op where one person is the bad guy and you're all playing against the bad guy.
I went into this game thinking it was not going to be that great of a game because it was from IDW, and I just thought that the components weren't going to be that great. The miniatures are fine; they could be better, but they're very good. And I don't know what I was like. I don't know, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. This is kind of an IP ripoff, and I came out actually liking this as one of my favorite games of the year. I already did my top 10 list video-wise, and I put Conan on that list. I would actually replace Conan, even though it's a great game, still like it. I'd replace Conan with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I give this one an awesomeness rating of 9.
See, I don't give it quite as high because dungeon crawls aren't my thing. So let me caveat that because I do think this is a great dungeon crawl. I'm debating between a 7 and an 8, and I think I'm going to go with a 8. I'm going to go with the 8. I'm going to go with the 8. Now, the one thing he forgot to mention when he said, well, it's IDW, he didn't look, and the designer's Kevin Wilson, who does a lot of really good games.
That's
so
true.
You should have looked at the designer first and said, yes, it's going to be good because Kevin designed it.
Well, anyway, that's our review of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shadows of the Past. There's a lot of cool things, 4 different campaigns in the box, lots of fun. You can replay them over and over again, and I'm sure we need to...
Bebop and Rocksteady are coming soon, we feel.
Are they?
Where are they?
So anyhow, check it out.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.